once I switch this, hold on. All right, where are we? Why isn't this going? As soon as this goes online, okay, Facebook's up, Twitch is up, YouTube should be up. Here we go. Fly plugins. So now I can see you type in the chat. You should be able to see me type if I do type in the chat. In fact, even if you type in Discord, it'll go.
Right.
So here's another link. You could use the old link probably, but this new link will definitely work. And now I'm going to. Actually, should I? Yeah, if I don't mute now on Discord, you're going to hear me twice. The trouble is you won't be able to hear Reaper in real time, but that's okay. I'm going to mute Discord now. And the next time you hear me talk is going to be with all the latency of YouTube. But so again, I'm going to find a kind of craptastic part of this. I'm going to find this as much bleed as I possibly can on this kick drum. But there's a huge problem in that this is a studio drummer, and this is something that 99% of people out there are never going to encounter. They're always going to have a worse drummer than this, so it's going to be a little bit hard to get to show the problem that we normally want to show. But let me play this anyway. So there's a little bit of bleed behind the kick drum. I know it can be hard because this goddamn drummer playing in the background. See if that helps a little bit. There's a little bit of bleed behind the kick. Not much, unfortunately, but there's a little bit. So I'm going to play this again. So this is a professional drummer that tends not to put drums on top of drums, so it's really not that much of a problem. But I'm going to show that even with this, you know, if I really wanted to crank the treble up or something, let's try that. I'm gonna put in I'll put in one of our plugins. I'm gonna crank the hell out of the treble here. Oh wow, I got to register my own plugin. Awesome. All right, let me take care of this real quick. Oh, that is pain in the butt. I guess it means the registration system's working, so that's a good thing. EQ. Just grabbing my serial real quick. Oh, you know what? I never register dynamic EQ to myself. Well, that'll do it. All right. So let me do that real quick. I thought I had. Wow, that is funny. Okay, something issue. Okay, got orders.
So, Aaron, I don't need to continue sharing my Discord, right?
No. It's in fact it's not even being shared. So okay, so just putting in my numbers real quick. Okay. Okay. Did I break the universe? I may have. Oh my. Please check your internet access. Are you telling me I can't run my own plugin? What's going on here? Come on. Oh, man. All right. Let me try one more thing. Sorry. Oh, wrong one. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. There we go. Boy, I wish you would save your email address. Let's talk to Dave about that tomorrow. Okay, that should work. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's say I wanted to crank the hell out of the treble here. Again, this is a hard example because this is a seriously good drummer, so this is really tricky to find a bad. Well, this section might work. What is this new C-shaped thing on Reaper? That's interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna loop this section. So it'd be nice to get rid of all this in-between stuff, because when I turn up the treble, it's just making hissy, nasty mess. So I could use a regular old gate for this, I'm betting. Let's see. I bet you this works just fine. So here's without the gate. Okay, so even a regular old gate works just fine. Let's pull what used to be the most advanced gate out there, made by yours truly, way back in the day, or designed by yours truly and made by a coder with real coding skills. And probably in context,
Is that whole feature a common thing on plugins?
it's common to Dynamics plugins that I design. It's on some of. I didn't come up with it, but you'll see it on some of them. But this is Regate. This is one of my early designs here. So, but this does okay. And if I really wanted to say, hey, I want just the kick to trigger this, let's see. How would I? Let me pull up a spectrum analyzer. So let's look at what the kick's actually saying here. So it looks like the majority of energy on this kick is going to be on the low end. So you would think, hey, it's what is this, 120 hertz? Why don't I have the detector listen to 120 hertz? And that should be what opens it up. So let's take a look at what happens if you do that. So I'm going to set this thing to preview filter, which is the equivalent of our key listen sort of, but it doesn't give you any visual cues. But I'm going to set this so that it's going to be around 120 hertz. So I'm going to set the high end at, like, let's just say 150, and the low end Let's see, at 100. So let's listen to what this sounds like. So since that's got the most energy on the kick drum, it seems like that would be the place to set the gate. But there's a problem with this, and I'll show you what it is. Again, because this is a studio drummer, this is not something you're going to see in real life with the band 99% of the time, but it's not that big of a problem. But what happens when you trigger on the low end is you're going to follow the waveform. So if there's anything riding on this, cymbals, snares, anything, it's gonna get carried through. So if for instance, if I turn the hold and the release off, let's listen to what the gate's actually doing. It's really staying on, and if I shorten it, or if I make the threshold higher, it's kind of asking for it. You know, I can clean that up somewhat with the hold and the release time. You can actually make a pretty nice sound. But another thing is, it actually takes that waveform some time to develop. So if I really wanted to get, you might see, if I were to glue this right now, you would see that I'm missing the beginning of this waveform, even though I have pre-opened it set to 2 milliseconds. So if I were to put this pre-open to like 20, we're going to get the front back. But that, what is that, 896 samples of latency right there in order to do that. So if we could avoid that, it'd be nice. So really, what you'd end up triggering on, even though it doesn't sound right, or doesn't seem right, it'd be so much nicer to trigger on this fast stuff up here. But the problem with this at 3K here, you see there's not very much difference between the kick and the bleed, the snare and the cymbals and whatever is coming in the back of it. So that's a big problem. But again, a simple gate like this do just fine on a really easy to deal with track like this kick drum. There's still some problems. I'll show you what the big deal is. Before I move on to something like a tom, I'm gonna pull up the multiband gate instead now. Okay, so here I really only need the high end coming out for a very short amount of time. Just that's all I need from the highs. But I'd love for the lows to last forever. That's that's what your kick drum is. It's supposed to have some lows in it. So I'm gonna let's get a good just basic gate going here. So I'm going to look at this high band here, and I only need that splat for just the shortest amount of time. Anything else, I want that off. I might even want it shorter than this, because now if I turn up that crazy treble, all I'm getting is that kick splat. I'm not getting any snare. I'm not getting any cymbals. Okay, but I want the low end to last a long time. So that's a problem, right? So let's look at the low end. So if I had a normal gate, I'd have the low end set exactly the same as the high end, and this is what it would sound like. Which in this case isn't that bad. Let me turn the threshold up a little bit. So that's pretty short, but if I wanted it to go long on the multiband gate, I can just tell it, hey, stay open. In fact, if I want it to stay open for a real long time, I can. You can even make car stereo sounds out of it if I wanted. And I'm not really sure what I want this mid band to do. In fact, I could live without it, so I'm going to turn it off for now. So I'm unsolo this so you can hear the lows and the highs. And if I wanted the mid just normal, so I could put it back on. So I can have the lows last as long as I want versus a regular gate. I'm not sure what kind of bass those headphones put out, but I could exaggerate this and bring this into the higher end. Not that I want to get into the snare area, but in real life I'd be down here in the lows. And really I'd probably drop this mid out of here, or at least turn it down. And now I'm free to turn up the highs as much as I want without screwing anything up.
I see how the bands are different colors. What is that golden band under the red?
The horizontal lines that go across the whole thing are just decibel demarcations. They're just the graph. Oh, okay, shoot. Oh, wow. Why was my mic off? Okay, here we go. Now my mic's on. Okay, so if you didn't hear any of that, this is the gold signal is just the crossover section of the between the two bands. We have to make those bands scale a little bit better, so that'll be easier to see. So the other problem that people really run into is the snare, is the hi-hat mic leaking in, the hi-hat leaking into the snare mic. And most drummers, the hi-hat is going to be just as loud as the snare in the snare mic. You're not really going to run into drummers like this guy very often. And so this isn't really that big of a problem, but here's, if I were to have to use a normal gate for this, and I wanted the cymbal noise out of the snare, I'd have to make the snare pretty short. So listen to what it would sound like. I mean, that's a pretty crappy sounding snare, but in context with the overheads, it might be okay. Let's listen. I mean, it's not terrible when they're together like that, but this is what we used to have to do back in the day. You would have to compromise how much cymbal bleed can you put up with versus how short of a snare can you put up with. So you'd reach some like unhappy compromise. So let's look for one. And let me put that in context with the overheads. So not too bad, but it still sounds pretty damn hokey. So let's try a multi-band gate on this. Okay. So now I'm going to look at the cymbal chunk here. Hold on, let's solo the high end. I'm just going to listen for the part of the snap that I want out of the snare. So I can make the highs as short as I want, but I can make the lows not so short. So I'm going to solo the low end of this, somewhere around that snare's resonant frequency. Really interested in this second one up in the 350s, but I'm going to get this fundamental here. So I can make that low end last as long as I want. If this were a normal gate, the low end would end up like this, right? Because you'd have the one setting. That sucks. You want that low end longer. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And so for the mids, I'm really not sure. I'm going to start with it pretty low. I have a feeling I want this the second harmonic here, but I don't really want much of it because I don't want the cymbals spitting on me.
Wow, I like that.
And so compared to this is a regular gate. So now when we put it in context, This is interesting. There's going to be like an out of phase snare here. Interesting. What does that sound like soloed? Okay, but the real trouble that everybody's scared of, that kills everybody, is toms. And even the best drummer in the world, I'm betting these toms are going to sound, it's going to be a lot of cymbals. If you're looking at Reaper spectral peaks, you can actually see the way I have it colored for me, view spectral peak display settings. I have the super high end painted just about black. So let's, so you can tell this is probably a cymbal right here. Let's listen. So it's a cymbal, and it's the high-end thwack of the snare where it starts to turn slightly purple, and then it's black again. Here's a guarantee you can be a lot of cymbal here. So even the best of drummers, there's going to be a lot of cymbal in the tom track. Again, you're never going to see this much isolation. This isn't typical, but it's still, you can still hear a problem. So let me play the tom with the cymbals. Oops, let's not repeat right there. Make a longer repeat. Now the nature of the tom, you really want to hear it go doom on the low end, but that high, you only need it for a second, just like the snare. Not even a second, you only need it for a couple milliseconds, just like the snare. So what I want to happen, I want the highs to cut off before that cymbal starts, but I want the low to keep on going. Okay, so this... this is a good example right here. So again, if I put a normal gate up, you're just going to end up with a really short... you're going to have to pick a really short hit, or you're going to have to accept a lot of cymbals bleeding in. But with multi-band gate, I don't have to accept either one of those things. So I'm going to make the high end short. Let's look at where the low end is here. Way down there. Like 120 or something. So I'm going to make these lows last forever. See, no matter how long I make these lows, I'm still not picking up these cymbals. Like, listen to these cymbals. And all that gross cymbal. But I can get my high end back. Can have all the high end I want. And if I really want these mids in here, which I probably won't, and if I want to do something crazy like putting exciter on here, I can. And if I were to get rid of that gate, what would I have? I'd have a big troubly mess.
So wait, did I see that correctly? You pulled out the highs and the multiband and then turn them up in another plugin?
Kinda. I made the highs short. I made them not last very long in multi-band gate. That's his job, is to make the highs only. Watch. I'll get back to the timing real quick. So I'm going to make the highs only last for the shortest amount of time.
Oh, I see.
Because I made them short, now they don't include cymbals and stuff. I can put on crazy things that turn the highs up without doing the cymbals. Watch, if I turn this off here. If I don't have that gate on, the cymbal, the tom mic turns into another cymbal mic, and that's all it is. It just becomes a cymbal mic. The point of this gate is to not turn your tom mic into a cymbal gate. So if I turn it back on, or into a cymbal mic, so if I turn it back on, the cymbals, I can get the cymbals out of there, but I can still have the lows last as long as I want. So unfortunately he's doing like a stick twirl on this thing, but when I put it in here in context, as opposed to watch how it cleans up when I turn it on. Here's without it. In fact, so if I were to do something really evil, like put a compressor on there, like most people are going to do with their toms, watch what happens. So let's get rid of the gate. See, now this tom mic really is a cymbal mic. But watch this. Even with the compressor cranked to all hell like that, it doesn't, the cymbals aren't going to make trouble, but I'm not losing my lows either. Without. So if you were to find a regular set of multi-tracks with a regular drummer, this problem is going to be a way worse. I'm having to actually almost go pathological to make this one bad, but hopefully we'll get some multi-tracks of a regular drummer coming up pretty soon, and you can really see where this really shines. In the case of a perfect drummer, you're not really going to have that much trouble, but I mean, even still with this in the toms, I can get a lot more out of it with multi-band gate than I could at the regular gate. So that's that's how that works. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding there. Doesn't look like anybody else is really on, so that's cool. But anyway, play along with these tracks and play around with, really try and clean up those toms and watch how hard it is at the regular gate and make sure you understand how multi-band gate works.